WVTT is the news station that brings you news and information that you can depend on. We are first, fast, and accurate, bringing you the only local television news in the Twin Tiers. WVTT, depend on it.
A low tonight of 28 degrees. We are going to see temperatures hang around the low 40s for the week, and I'll have full weather updates for you later on in the 6 o'clock report.
Now, WVTT Global News Update.
Japan is preparing to elect a new prime minister this weekend. The nation is still struggling to recover from last year's earthquake and tsunami. And for residents in one small town, the election feels a world away. CNN's Alex Zolbert reports.
Coastal areas in Ishinomaki still show the scars from the tsunami of March 2011. What was once a neighborhood is now eerily quiet. Destroyed homes, long abandoned. Like everyone here, Kenichi Kurosawa remembers the day well. He was driving down this road to try to meet his wife when the waves moved in. I knew I had to get to higher ground fast, he tells me. I climbed this tree to get to safety. This is some of the video he shot in the hours that followed, perched above the destruction. Kenichi spent the entire night, more than 12 hours, sitting in the tree, in sub-zero temperatures, soaked and freezing. Today, he brings us to the sign that he erected in the weeks that followed. It's become a memorial of sorts here in Ishinomaki.
It says Gambaro Ishinomaki. What does Gambaro mean?
It means hang in there, do not give up, he tells me. I wanted to do something to encourage the people here. His message for Japan's next prime minister? I know it was a huge disaster and things would take time, but I'm frustrated, he says. The reaction has been too slow for too long. 67-year-old Katsuji Ogata lost his wife in the tsunami. He used to run a small restaurant here. Now it's a simple food truck. And he isn't afraid to say what he thinks about the government. The government hasn't done a thing for us. They've only cleared the debris, he says. They want to build a park here. But what will that do? We need homes.
As you can see, there is still a great deal of work to be done, but many people here are very frustrated with the government. Billions of dollars in reconstruction money has been siphoned off to totally unrelated projects in other parts of the country. And according to the government itself, roughly 115,000 people in this prefecture alone remain in temporary housing.
This is just one complex. More than 500 units scattered across what are essentially parking lots, just outside Ishinomaki. The people here are getting by. They've set up a basic convenience store. And they hold a small Sunday market as well, despite the freezing temperatures. Today, they're selling radishes. There's also a barber shop where we meet Satoshi Sakurai, who's passing time reading the paper. I'm filled with frustration, he tells us. Another prime minister, a new cabinet. The reconstruction will be delayed again. It's a sentiment shared by Junko Hino, who lost her father-in-law on March 11th, as well as her home. Today, she lives here with her husband and 3 children. Nothing has changed here, but the Prime Minister has changed many times, she says. I don't understand the meaning of any of it. Caught in the middle of a massive recovery effort and so much political change. Yes, we are working hard and trying to move forward, Kenichi says, but there are many people here who are really struggling and need some help. Alex Zolbert, CNN, Ishinomaki, Japan.
The fiscal cliff of deep spending cuts and automatic tax increases is looming even closer as Congress and the President continue to be at a stalemate. If we go over the cliff, the Defense Department will be among the agencies facing the biggest cuts. Some officials say it would be devastating to the department. But as Chris Lawrence tells us, not everyone thinks so.
To hear the Pentagon tell it,
sequestration, therefore, if it were allowed to happen, would introduce senseless chaos.
The fiscal cliff
sequestration will have a chaotic effect on the force.
Is akin to Armageddon.
What I worry about is being blindsided by a huge cut because they don't have the strength or the courage or the guts to do what they have to do. Happy holidays.
The cliff would cut $500 billion in defense spending, but spread out over the next 10 years.
Would these cuts really be that bad?
Absolutely not.
Analyst Ben Freeman argues the Pentagon can survive on a smaller budget.
Sequestration happens, it will drop a little bit, but it's certainly not catastrophic or doomsday or any other sort of hyperbole they want to describe it as.
Perhaps the Navy would have to buy less expensive, less advanced fighter jets instead of the new F-35. Or the Pentagon would have to cut the number of soldiers and Marines back to the levels before 9/11.
Sequestration would risk hollowing out our force.
Pentagon officials say going over the cliff would actually leave them $1 trillion in the hole because it comes on top of cuts they've already budgeted for.
We've put in place $487 billion in savings over the next 10 years.
Are these cuts the same sort of budget cuts that you and I think of when we think of cutting our budget?
I call them phantom cuts because it's not a real savings.
Freeman says the Pentagon is counting money that it was projecting to spend as savings, which he says isn't the same as simply spending less.
But this is the way D.C. does math. It's unfortunate that you or I can't do our taxes like that, but it's the way they seem to do business here.
A senior defense official admits that everyone at the Pentagon, from the secretary on down, is on autopilot to defend their budget. Even though he feels that they need people to go in and challenge their costs, he argues that's better done over time, not forced on them by the fiscal cliff. Chris Lawrence, CNN, the Pentagon.
A brave young man in Minnesota is 17 and not expected to see 18. He has terminal cancer. He's accepted his fate, but he's leaving for his family and friends a beautiful musical legacy. Ed Levendera reports.
Zach Sobiek's soul is filled with lyrics racing against time to get out. 3 years ago, Zach was diagnosed with osteosarcoma, a rare bone cancer that usually targets teenagers. Since then, he's had 10 surgeries on his hip and lungs, endless chemotherapy, and mostly bad news. Zach's doctor has told him he has only months to live. His mom suggested that he start writing goodbye letters to family and friends.
I am awful at writing. I can't sit down and write a letter. I've tried. I decided to pick up my guitar, I just started playing, and I was like, well, this is fun.
That's how his song called Clouds was born, a goodbye to those he loves.
You want to leave a melody behind?
Mm-hmm. I do.
And you think that that will help them cope?
It's kind of me always being there for them. Like, if they keep singing that song throughout their whole life out, I'll be right next to them the whole way.
Zach can't stop writing lyrics. There are so many songs he wants to leave behind.
You gotta live life fast, you know. You can't really put on the brakes at all. You can't wait for anything. And so that's kind of like one of the things when people say, okay, just hold on, we have to wait for this. It's like, well, I can't. Let's go. Tomorrow, what are we doing?
Zach is 17, a senior at Stillwater High School. He goes to class, but told his teachers he wouldn't be doing homework this year. Making it to graduation would be a gift.
I haven't seen you stop smiling.
Why not? Why not? Like, might as well smile.
Zach wants his song Clouds to raise awareness about childhood cancer, but for his family, the lyrics are a constant reminder the end is near.
It makes you cry, and it's the lyrics and having him actually articulate it and say, this is what it is and this is what I believe. It's a tough thing to hear from your kid.
He's leaving a legacy behind him. He's inspiring so many people, and that is more than any of us will ever be able to do.
When you look at your friends and you look at your family and your sisters, what do you think?
In all honesty, I'm sorry for them because I get to leave and I don't have to deal with any of this, but they have to keep on living and they have to deal with it.
Turning the heartache of cancer into unforgettable melodies is Zach Sobiek's final wish on this long goodbye. Ed Lavendera, CNN, Lakeland, Minnesota.
A down day on Wall Street. Let's take a look now at WVTT's Wall Street Wrap-Up, brought to you by News Radio 96.7 WVTT. The Dow is down almost 36 points to close at 13,135. The Nasdaq is down 21 points to close at 2,971, and the S&P is down almost 6 points to close at 1413. Sports and weather are next. You're not going to want to miss it. Keep it here on News Channel 25 WVTT.